if you're a rugby player and you want to dominate your trials coming up, or you want to have a really good in-season, whatever it may be, you want to dominate this season, you need to watch this video and the whole thing, because I'm going to give you tips on exactly how to go out there and dominate and make sure that coaches notice you. Now, hopefully you've gone and had a big preseason. So hopefully you've got stronger, you've got a bit faster, you've been working on your fitness. I hope. If you haven't, well, it's never too late to start, and something is better than nothing. But if you're someone who's already been working quite hard, then this is what you need to listen to, because this week I had a client come to me and they really want to make their first 15 for their school, and I think they're in year 11, so they're not quite, they've got a whole nother year there before they hit year 12 then go on. And what happened was they were doing 3 of their fitness sessions a week, plus they're doing my 3 gym sessions and 2 speed sessions on top of it. And he came to me and he's like, Pat, I'm actually getting more unfit. Like, I actually got worse on my yo-yo and my Bronco. How could that be? And I said to him, you actually can't get more unfit if you're doing that much. What's actually happening is you just got too much fatigue. And so what I do with all my clients, I try and work out, okay, well, how much activity are they doing? How much training are they doing? And then I try to work in our plans what will suit them best. And so what I've done for him is that I've then gone and dropped a whole weights day, and I've dropped one of the sprint days. So now they're only doing 2 sessions a week, which if you know how to program properly, you can build muscle with 2 sessions a week. You can still get faster with 2 gym sessions a week. You don't have to do 3, 4, 5, 6 gym sessions. And I'm going to argue if you're doing 4, 5, 6 coming into the season, you're probably going to get worse results because of the amount of fatigue you're going to accumulate. And that is what's going to actually increase your risk of injury, okay, and decrease what your ability will be out in the field. Now, why is that? Because what fatigue essentially is or does, it's a reduction in your ability to perform, okay? So whatever that may be, whether it be fitness, whether it be strength, whether it be speed, it's reducing your brain's ability to recruit high threshold motor units, or all of your muscle fibers, okay? And because of that, it's also actually reducing your ability to coordinate things. So your coordination gets worse. Like, you would have known that if you went and did a whole bunch of fitness, then did some passing drills, your passing's actually a little bit worse. And coaches might try and flog you, be like, you have to be able to do this. But it's actually not a good habit to go and get smashed by fitness and then go and do passing drills, because you're actually going to need to then train bad movement patterns or poor movement patterns, which your brain will then remember. It actually outdoes the good work. So if you're doing your skill work, you actually want to be fresh. Now, for this client, I actually expect in 2 weeks' time, his fitness will go through the roof, and his coaches will actually notice that, because all we've done is reduce the amount of fatigue he has, okay? And now you need to realize, why do we actually fail? Whether it be in the gym, lifting weights, why you'll be running out in the field and then your pace starts to drop off, why your yo-yo gets worse, as you go along, your speed gets worse. It's not because you're running out of energy. It's not because your muscles can't do it. It's because your perception of effort is too high. Okay, as soon as your perception of effort gets too high, whether you're doing multiple tasks at once, okay, so say I'm standing on a Bosu ball right now and I'm trying to hold a dumbbell here and one here. If I just drop this becomes easier. I have more strength here, because my perception of effort is now gone down, which allows me to recruit more motor units in this one arm. Okay, so the less that your brain is doing or having to do, the more it can put into one task. Now, that goes back to fatigue, okay? So fatigue is usually, comes from inflammation in the body. That's a big one. So if you're doing a lot of damaging things, okay? So if you're doing exercise which is damaging, so like you're running, you're sprinting, weight training in certain ways. So like if you're doing more lengthened muscle, it's going to cause a lot more muscle damage, okay? And this brings calcium ions into the muscle cell. This is going to cause more inflammation, and this is going to prolong the amount of fatigue you have. And so what we can do to start actually reducing that, so you actually can perform at your best, because when you're fatigued, your perception of effort, things get way harder, okay? Everything's hard. It's like when you get a bad night's sleep, your perception of effort of things are, everything feels hard. Like going to the fridge and making breakfast feels hard because you got a poor night's sleep, okay? And when you get a poor night's sleep, your skill work is going to be probably atrocious because perception of effort, just your coordination would have gone downhill. Now, if you're coming into the season, you want to hit your trials hard, you want your coaches to notice you, then we can't be in a really fatigued state. And I know a lot of clubs, schools will really flog their players towards that first part of the season, then back them off, okay? And they don't usually back them off until after trials. Now, if you want to trial well, you've got to back off before trials so that you trial well. Okay, so like you got to think a couple weeks, 2 weeks before trials, okay, I've got to start backing off now. So like backing off down to 2 gym sessions maximum with 1 speed session, like depending on what you're already doing. So if you're already doing quite a lot of running, whether you're playing touch, whether your club's running you twice a week with fitness, then you probably don't need that extra running session. You just need 2 weight sessions, okay? And you might do a little bit of off-feet conditioning instead. So like off feet is going to reduce the amount of fatigue because there's no eccentric, which is when you're running, you have an eccentric motion, which is what's going to cause more muscle damage, more fatigue, okay? So depending on what my clients want, okay, so whether they want more speed, muscle, strength, I'm looking at that, I'm going, okay, this program here will be better, and I'll upload at maybe two days or 3 days for them to do that will be the best thing for them coming into the season. So I'll start to chop and change a lot of my clients' programs depending on where they are, what do they need, and what's going to be best for them and their goals, right? So if they want to keep on building muscle, we can actually do that with 2 sessions a week as long as you know how to program that. Like you need to understand muscle leverages, you need to understand motor unit recruitment, you need to understand each muscle fiber as how can we best activate them. And then which muscle fibers, not muscles, muscle fibers are we activating in certain movements. Okay, especially as you get more advanced, you need to understand that. Compared to if you're more a beginner, you'll hit all the muscle fibers. Now, let's come back to the season and how can we change our training to reduce fatigue. So I started touching on it before, but the big thing that we can do in the gym is obviously reduce volume. Okay, we can reduce the eccentric time. So like if you're trying to build up your hamstrings and you're doing a lot of Nordics, something like that, where it's just focusing on the eccentric, what's going to happen is that eccentric is going to be causing a lot of muscle damage. The more time under tension, then the more it allows calcium ions to come into the muscle fibers, right? Which is once again going to cause that extra fatigue. So what I do is reduce muscle damage. Okay, how can I do that? No more drop sets. I don't even train drop sets. Like I don't even put them in my programs. Long rest periods. Shorten the range of motion. Okay, so if I can do like a rack pull quite high, a stiff-legged rack pull instead of a stiff-legged deadlift or an RDL to the floor, now's the time to start doing that. Okay, even with chin-ups, I can reduce the amount of muscle damage from doing a quarter range of chin-ups. So just top from here to here, right? And I can still get the same amount of torque on the certain muscle fibers that I want. So I could still keep building muscle. Or if someone wants more strength and speed, what we can do is still train a lot further away from failure. So we might be 3 to 5 reps away from failure, but doing a lot quicker reps, okay, with very low volume. So what we can do is actually get them faster, and we can be using other things like bands and things to make sure that we keep on accelerating weights. So going back to that shorter range of motion, there's other things you could do like a glute bridge or a hip thrust, glute bridge or hip thrust. They're actually quite good quadricep and glute exercises. And if you look at your squat, instead of doing a deep squat or something, you might just do a glute bridge on the Wednesday before you game. Okay, because what you need to start looking at is, okay, when do I actually need to perform at my best? So if it's Saturday and I do 3 or 4 hard sets on a Wednesday, it's going to take me at least 3 days to recover from that. So 3 days, by the time you're hitting Saturday, you're still recovering. Okay, so what you might do is only 1 or 2 sets on that Wednesday, and we might do a shortened range, so there's less muscle damage. So by the time you hit that Saturday session, by the time you hit the game day on Saturday, you're actually fresh. You're ready to go, and you can, be as strong as possible out in the field. So that's what I'm looking at. And then people do a lot of priming sessions. I actually try not to do any weights in my priming sessions. I try only to do concentric only, very short and sharp if people want to do it. I don't make it mandatory at all because I don't think you're going to get heaps out of it. Like I've seen a little bit of research around it, and I don't think you're going to get a whole lot out of it. You might get a little bit out of it, okay? But I think a lot of people just cause a little more fatigue than what they're actually getting benefit out of it. And especially if they're throwing in arms and other muscle groups that are easily damaged, okay? So arms is one, very easily damaged muscle fibers. Hamstrings is another one. But I don't think many people do hamstrings. Okay, so here's the things we can do around your training. So reduce amount of volume. That's going to be the easiest thing. Reduce the amount of days you're going and actually doing something. Actually having rest days is going to be a big help. Maybe you just go for a walk or something when you do have a proper rest day. Reducing range of motion. I think I said volume, so sets, reps, having a look at that. And then being further from failure unless you're trying to build muscle. And if you're trying to build muscle, then you're going to be doing very minimal sets of a close to failure. Okay, and that's how I do things. Like I'm looking at, does this person still want muscle? Okay, if they still want muscle, we're going to be doing closer to failure but very low volume. If they want more speed and strength, we're going to be a lot further from failure. We're going to be doing more fast movements but still short in range. Okay, where they can still get those power benefits. And so that's just how we can start reducing fatigue. So you can go out there and play your best. Now the other things I wanted to talk about, because if you understand that perception of effort is like your brain working, and then that's affecting how you're going to play. So if you're someone who doesn't understand your position, you don't know your teammates, you don't know the calls. So say you're going to go to your line-out calls and you don't know them. You're going to your brain's going to be like, oh, I'm thinking about this. You need to not even have to think about it. You need to hear that call and not think about what do I have to do. Okay, you need to know the calls and know where you need to go on the field. Okay, so like every team will have, okay, we're going to be attacking this section of the field, whatever it may be. You need to know the calls so well that you don't even think about that. You just go there. Okay, or you just set up for your next move. The more you think about things, the higher perception of effort. Now this goes back to your skills. How well do you know your skills? Okay, how well do you catch and pass both ways? If you even have to hesitate to pass to your weaker side because you know it's your weaker side, you're using more perception of effort, which is then going to decrease your performance. Okay, and this is a big one for tackling. I know a lot of people that didn't like contact, and because they didn't like contact, they're going to be burning through so much more energy because one, they're going to be trying to get away from contact, and two, they have to think about every single tackle they make rather than them having made so many tackles in preseason and being able to put themselves in so many different positions that when they go to make contact or a tackle, that it just happens automatically. The more you can get into that state and practice those skills, I promise you, your fitness will go through the roof because your perception of effort has then gone down. Okay? Because you are not running out of energy out there. If you ran out of energy, you would die. Let me just put it that way. That's what would happen. You don't run out of energy, your perception of effort just gets too high, right? Your brain's thinking too much, and you don't know the skills enough. And that's as simple as that. Like, you need to know your skills. You need to know your game plan. And the better you know that, then the more you can go and dominate. Now, how else? What about if you're a kid? Okay, you want to go out there, you try and impress reps. Run the ball, okay? Coaches always look for kids who want to get their hands on the ball and run the ball. And the best runners of the ball will always probably get picked first unless they have terrible defense. Okay, so run the ball. If you're not good at running the ball, that's what you need to practice. You need to get out there. Play some touch footy. Understand how to get on the outside shoulder or inside shoulder of someone. That's what you need to start doing, okay? The other thing you can do is, then this costs nothing. Start talking. Start learning who you've got in defense, all right? Talkers, especially in defense, always get noticed, especially in, you know, your subbies all the way up. Like, you know someone's talking because it just sets the D line, okay? Start to move forward. It's really noticeable from the sidelines, okay? When there's that dominant player out there always talking. If the whole team's talking, you're probably just going to roll teams, okay? Because you're just going to have those communication between each other. Now, the last thing is, don't miss tackles, all right? And if you do, don't worry about it. Get up and go again. But I just encourage you to be so good at tackling and wrestling that you don't miss tackles. Don't give coaches a reason not to select you, okay? That's what you got to think about, okay? Like, don't give them a reason. Now, if it happens out in the game, cool, so be it. Move on. Learn from it, go again, okay? The biggest things that I want you to take away from this video, though, is that you can reduce fatigue and get far better results from better training, okay? And understanding muscle physiology goes a long way, so I don't expect you to understand that, but I'm trying to, you know, give you science-based stuff here so you can go out, you can get better results with your training, with your strength and conditioning, with your fitness, and you can go and dominate. So if you've enjoyed this, please like, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing more of these. I've got one on bulking coming out. I've got one on speed coming out. So be on the lookout for those. I'm going to be doing more of these. And yeah, follow me on Instagram as well. And if you want to chat to me on Instagram, or our website is Rugby Development Coach. We've got programs for women's, guys that want to put on muscle, lean muscle especially. I'm really good at that. And speed training if you want to get strong and fast. And then we have fitness programs as well. We've got all. We've got kids programs, 14 to 17s, beginners weights. We've got body weight programs for kids as well. So we've got it all. Come and jump on it. And yeah.